So I've done some further studies on the GPS. I couldn't leave you like that last week. And I find it necessary to further enlighten you on this wonderful instrument that would really help you if you really pay attention in this church. So let's just engage ourselves right away in what we have to talk about, because in using your GPS, most of you use it, I hope. Who drives in here? If you don't have a license, don't put your hand up. Who drives in here? Let me see all the drivers. Okay. If you're a driver, have you ever used a GPS? In 2014, I shouldn't even be asked. All right. Lorraine, do you use a GPS? You have to. You have no choice. Regina said she can't drive without it. But it's usually felt that you give the GPS. If you talk about how you use it, if I were to ask you, how do you use a GPS? You will maybe tell me that you give it the instructions and then it tells you where to go. Is that how you think? What do you do with a GPS? I once asked somebody that, and I felt that's what I used to do, by the way, that I give the GPS the instructions by typing it in, and then it tells me where to go. But think about that in reference to the person who mentors you. You instruct them, and then they follow. Does that happen? Who gives the instruction? Okay. So let's just begin first of all by knowing that you do not instruct the GPS. What you do is you present it with your intention. Then it gives you the instruction. If you do not tell the GPS where you intend to go, it never instructs you to go anywhere. Therefore, if you're seeking someone to lead you like a pastor or a mentor or something in your life, you must first of all know where you want to go. A GPS never anticipates your destination or your intended destination. You have to first of all tell it. You engage the GPS whenever you are convinced that you're uncertain about how to get to where you're going. Let me say it to you again. Whenever you pick up a GPS, it's because you're convinced that you're not too sure about where you're going. Some of you don't even know where you're going. For example, if you're here, and since we're dealing with so many weddings, I have to continue to talk about it. But if you're certain about the person you want to be with, you do not seek counsel. What you normally seek is consent. Because you know this is the person I have to be with. So you're not coming to see, should I be with this person? But I'm so happy about the quality, about the sons and daughters we have in this ministry. All of them have first of all said, would you please tell us if we should be with this person? Even after 4+ years Pastor Woodley still sought my counsel to be sure. And Melissa is still willing if I tell her tomorrow, don't do it, Woodley's a goner. Because you need to know the power of counsel. Today's not a shouting day maybe for you. It's a day where you listen though. Because you'd realize that there are times when you were convinced that you knew the way. Naturally speaking, you're driving. You know exactly how to get to the destination you're going to go. Only to find out that somewhere along on the course of the journey, you didn't remember how to get to where you were going. That ever happened to you? That happened to me before. The road was very familiar in my mind until I got there. When we went to see Regina's mom one night, it was me, Regina Ashton and I, and we were there, and I was driving. I said to them, I know a shorter way to get home. Because I knew this road. You couldn't tell me I didn't know the road. And I turned and I said, this is the way. Ashton said, the prophet said, I don't think you need to turn there. He's not a driver. He said, I think you need to go straight. I said, boy, relax. I know the way. And we drove and drove and drove until I said, no, this cannot be the way. It looked so familiar from the beginning until I was honest enough to say I was lost. Then what did I do? I engaged the GPS, only to find out I was so far off course. You see, the initial advice that I offer you today is this. If ever you have a question about the course you should take, consult the GPS. Don't think you're so certain about what you should do. Don't ever feel that you just know it all and you just know how to get the job done. If you feel one sense of uncertainty about anything in your life, consult with the GPS. That is why I seek God about every wedding in this church. There is no wedding I have stood in terms of an official, without going before God in fasting and prayer, really seeking His face. Why? Because I understand that some ministers would feel that they know exactly what to say because they have the book. Dearly beloved, we gather here today to join this man and this woman together in the sight of God and in this company. No. You think you know what to say. But how could I say the same thing to a couple who has the whole church supporting them? How could I say, okay, this is what God is saying to you, and then the next week, another couple who has half of the church against them? How could I tell both of them the same thing? You need, if you're going to deal with people, to know what God is saying about that person. Every wedding in this church cannot be the same, because you're not all the same. All you don't have the same kind of people liking you. Some people hope you don't get married. Some people pray you get divorced the next day. So I must be before God then as the GPS for some of you, saying, Father, what should I tell them? What direction should they take? Should they have a reception? Some of you feel that every wedding must have one, only to find out that your ceremony could be cancelled by the behavior at the reception. If you can't act right, you don't need to have people having any reception. Not you, I'm talking about the guests who come. Why must I invite you to be ungodly if I'm godly? I go, what, one club, boy. There's sometimes when the GPS will direct some of you on one highway today, take 280 west, continue for 21, 40, 50 miles. It may tell you that today. And tomorrow you try to go on the same trip and the GPS says, take somewhere else. So you're confused. Why would you send me one way yesterday, but today you give me a different direction? You know why? Say traffic. Sometimes the same road that was clear yesterday could be congested tomorrow. You may know the way, but do you know what's on the way? Start to talk to you already. This brings me now this week for us to deal with the modernized GPS, the modern one. Take a look. Look at that very carefully. Unlike the old-fashioned one, see how much information it gives you? We're in a classroom today. Tell your neighbor you're in class. They don't sleep here. Let's look at some of the features that this GPS would give to us. Look at it. Look at it. If you look up, you see where the blue car is? Can everybody see the blue car? Okay. Look at the blue car. You would notice, though, that there's a map. You see the big thing? There's a map around the car. Say the big picture. The map is the big picture. The first major thing that the GPS does is it shows you the big picture. I really want to help somebody here today. It shows you where you are. What's you in this here? Let me give some of you class in using GPS. Where are you? You the car. It shows you where you are in reference to the big picture. It doesn't matter how big or how small the city or town is, your size always remains the same on the GPS. Let me tell you this now. Small-minded people get lost in big cities. I'm not talking in the natural here now. I'm talking in the spirit for you right here now. If ever your mind is small and they put you in a big crowd, you'll never succeed. Great people are great even in small cities. You don't need to have a big church to be great. Because the size of the map has nothing to do with your size. It's a good day to get your smartphone out and begin to shoot some stuff up on Facebook to tell some of your friends where you are from tomorrow. Where you are should never change who you are. The president is the head of state in D.C., in Arkansas, in the smallest, if he comes to court today, as small as this is, in reference to the whole map of the U.S., he's still the president. Because where he is does not affect who he is. If you cannot leave New Jersey and act as if you're saved, then you're not saved. That's 2 amens I get. So let me tell you one more time. If you decide to go on a cruise next week, or wherever you decide to go on vacation, and you take off, and when you land, your behavior is different from what is in here, you're not saved. You go to church, you're saved. Because salvation is not adjusted by environment. Because you're saved in here and up here. You don't take a day off. So the GPS is showing you the big picture. It doesn't show you the big map to intimidate you, church. What it shows you is the map to give you perspective. This is where you are in reference to there. Say you are here in reference to there. Say here and there. I want you to see this now, because I'm about to talk to some of you right now. The map is showing you you are here on East Ontario Street in reference to there, which is Grand Street. You are here in reference to there. You are weak here, but strength is over there. You're frustrated here today on Sunday, but clarity is on the other side next week. You may be making a great sacrifice here, but your reward is over there. You may be crying here, but joy is over there. You may be disappointed here, but you are appointed there. It always shows you where you are in reference to over there. You don't need to be intimidated. You may be in sin here, but your righteousness is over there. All you need to do is keep moving. If only you could keep driving, the GPS will always give you perception, perspective. This is where you are, but this is where you're going. Why are you crying then about where you are, if that is not where you're going? Don't let the big map intimidate you. The big map is called your life. The GPS is not programmed to give you encouragement, I said. It's programmed to give you perspective. Where am I in reference to where I am going? Matthew chapter 5 is a very interesting chapter in the Bible. Very interesting in reference to this topic. Matthew 5 from verse 1. Look at what Jesus is doing with his disciples. Matthew 5. And seeing the multitudes, he went up on a mountain. And when he was seated, his disciples came. Do you see that? Seeing the multitudes, what did Jesus choose to do? Go up on the mountain. When he got up on the mountain, his disciples came. The multitudes did not come. If you look at your Bible, you're going to see the heading as the Beatitudes. And we get up in church and preach this to the whole congregation. Jesus never spoke this to the crowd. He spoke it to his disciples. And seeing the multitudes, Jesus walked away from them. And the disciples were the ones who were willing to climb the mountain behind him. And when they came, it said, when he was seated, they came to him. Verse 2, then he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, you know this from Sunday school. What he said, verse 3 to verse 10. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger for righteousness and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called what? the sons of the children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is what? The kingdom of heaven. So from verse 3 to verse 10, Jesus says nothing or never uses the word you. That is a special assignment reserved for disciples of Christ. In other words, if you cannot be disciplined in Christ, you're not light, neither are you salt. You are church. Salt and light are people who took the upper journey on the mountain. You add flavor to those who stayed at the bottom. So when you make a decision that you want to get closer to God and you want to serve God with greater intent, your flavor begins to change. You therefore do not get the seasoning from the people at the bottom. You add flavor to their life. Further, it suggests that when you are in their company, that's when they are better off. So you don't start losing sleep over those who don't like you because they don't have salt in the food. If you could only begin today to shift your perspective about yourself and begin to see that if I'm going to be called salt, it means I'm the one who's important. If I'm going to be called light, I add to the room. When you show up, nobody else should be in darkness because you're present. I ask the question again, how then could you be living in the house and it's dark if you're there? No, it's dark when you drive out the yard, but when you came back, light has come again. And people normally see faults when the light is on. Why do you think they always argue when you're home? And they're at peace in your absence. You don't argue in the dark because you can't see what's wrong in the dark. Jesus begins to teach them, you are the light of the world. If a city is set on a hill, it cannot be hid. You can't hide it. He's talking to them. He's talking, let your light shine before men. Verse 16, that they may see what? You know this by heart, your good works, and do what? Okay, let me talk to the church, because you don't want to quote the scripture for me, so let me tell you what it said. Let your light shine before men, that who? The men would see what? So the light is really your works that are good. Let your light shine before men so they may see your good works. And what will they do? So the reason why men are not giving God glory because your light is not shining. Think about this in reference to everything you do and every place you go. If my responsibility is to live so that men would give God glory, if I don't live, then men will never give him glory. He is not leaving heaven to do anything for men to get glory. It's our responsibility to act in a manner that makes God get glory. Men should look at you and say, based on what I see, I could glorify God, because only God could make you live this way. Why then are you able to fit in then when you're supposed to stand out? You must not commit murder. But the 12 of you, I'm saying to you now, what this, if you're angry with your brother without a cause, you're in danger of judgment. If you say to your brother, Raka, or you fool, you're in danger of the council. They'll bring you before, they'll try you then. But whoever says you fool, you'll be in danger of hell. Jesus is saying to them then, I am giving you the instructions. But the crowd has the options. Watch me carefully here now, church. You do not become great with the options. Greatness lies in the instructions you follow. Greatness is not found in the options. It's in the instructions you choose to follow. If you read further in the text, you've heard it said, verse 27, in the days of old that you should not commit adultery. But what? But to you I say. Because the only person, Mayo, who could be guilty of adultery by looking is one who lives by faith. In other words, when you live by faith, you never have to see it to do it. You don't have to see it to have it. Therefore, if ever you live by faith, so watch what you say to me in the church now. If you say you live by faith, then you sin by faith. You don't have to do it. If faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of what you do not see, then the moment you hope that you had the woman in bed, you did it. So you might as well reverse and say, I don't live by faith anymore. Because the moment you live by faith, your sin threshold becomes lower. Let me help you now. You feel it becomes higher? No. When you live by faith, you just have to think it and you're in trouble. Because you keep up here pure. That's why he said the things that are good, the things that are pure, the things that are lovely, the things that are just. Watch how you think. Because it's the thinking that makes you sin. If you don't live by faith, you have to get in the bed with a woman, take it off, do all of that, then you sin. But if you're a faith walker, you just think it through and you did it already. Therefore, if you live by faith, you just have to think as if you're righteous and you did it already. Jesus is making a powerful distinction. There are some who would have to experience it to do it. There are others who just have to feel it in their minds and it's done. That's exactly how you succeed too, though. You don't have to go to work to be wealthy. If you live by faith, you just begin to think. And your thoughts are manifested before you. Let's go further then. The next thing the GPS shows you is the course. The course. The GPS shows you the course. So now you have the map. Now we come to the course. This is the way. The GPS would have been in contact with the satellites above it and is being fed information on the conditions of the road ahead of you. Let me come closer to talk to you now. The GPS has connection upward. If it doesn't have connection, it says signal lost. You off. That's it. You're toast. You're lost. As long as it's connected though, the GPS then is getting information in what is called real time. But it's also ahead of where you are. On the course, if you're going along the way, the GPS is showing you where you have an ATM or a bank. It's showing you where you have fuel stop, where you have food. But GPS is also will tell you this is a toll route. You are warned before leaving that the journey will cost you something. See why we need a GPS? Pastor, I love him. I want to make him my husband. Baby, this journey has tolls on it. You might get there, but you have to pay. You have to pay. And the thing about this is, the roads with the tolls are usually the ones that get you there the quickest. But there's a price to pay. When you can be patient and wait, there's a price that you pay. And then Pastor Reggie, some of us got easy pass. Because we can't take the inconvenience of stopping to pay. So you just drive through and think you escape. No, because at the end of the month, there's a bill coming. And you look at the neighbor next door and say, but they stop. And they don't look as if they're making progress. And they, no. You just drove through at 50 miles an hour. But don't forget that at the end of the month, you will be charged for every single time you passed. So the easy way out is not usually the best way out. The GPS then sometimes will show you there's an open bridge. There's an open bridge. There's a gap on the course. You're driving, and that's why I have Waze. Waze is a new one. I love it. Waze tells me everything but the road. Waze says there's an open bridge ahead. Stop. You never keep driving when the bridge is open. What are you talking about, Apostle? Your life is too serious and important for you to keep moving when there's an open bridge. You still didn't get what I'm talking about then. If ever you are at a point in your life when you don't know what to do, stop. The Bible said in Proverbs chapter 14 verse 12, there's a way that seems right to a man, but the end is death. If you keep driving when you don't know what to do, you'll go over something that you shouldn't get over. If your relationship is moving, and then you get uncertain, what do? I don't feel right in this anymore. Stop. Even if you're married, pause and say, we need to talk, because I don't like how I feel. Oh my God, you're going to love this right here. Because an open bridge, Pastor Reggie, means or doesn't mean it's your fault. An open bridge doesn't mean it's your fault. It simply means that some ships have to pass. Friendships, relationships, partnerships, fellowships. The bridge is open because if you keep driving on it, the ship will collide with you on the journey. You get frustrated thinking it was your fault that the bridge is open. You don't control the bridge. You have no power over the drawbridge. You have to stop and let the ships go through. Because as long as the ships go through, it may be inconveniencing, but the bridge will close again. There's some of you sitting before me, you refuse to let the bridge open. Because those ships mean too much to you. In addition to all I said to you before, if you look at the GPS, it says on the bottom left side, just above the little arrow, it says what? Limit. You see that? Do you see that word? And when it says just to the right of that, speed in miles per hour. So the limit is how fast you could go. It also shows you, though, what is your speed. The GPS is telling you this is the limit for this route. This is your speed in reference to the limit. It tells you when you are below the limit or when you are above the limit. Church, on some highways, if you are below the limit, you get a ticket for obstructing traffic. And I'm about to write some of your ticket today because you're moving way below the limit. How could you be in a 65-mile-an-hour zone at 30 miles an hour? Your life should have been far ahead of where it is. But you're scared to step on the gas because you want to be certain of everything. I am an officer of the law today for some of you in here. You're not supposed to be moving this slowly in your life. You should be making much more progress than you are right now. Put your foot on the pedal and drive, because there's a cop waiting for you saying, there's a whole line of people behind you. And your slowness is affecting the rate at which the people want to move. There's some who are behind you who want to go faster, but you got them stuck because you don't want to make progress. The other people, you're moving too fast. You're above the limit. They have done all the tests with other vehicles before they told you 30 miles an hour is the best to drive on this road. You can't show up on the road and say, well, in my opinion, I could drive at 90. They have done the tests. They have done the tests. Keep it up. Between the two of them, do you see the little arrow that turns? Let me help you with this. Why is it 30 miles an hour where you see the turn? Whenever your life is about to take a turn, slow down. When you sense a turn coming, slow down. You don't go into the ramp at high speeds. Let's look at the bottom right side. Arrival, which is your expected time of arrival, your ETA. What time should you get there? At 1:52 p.m. That is your expected time of arrival. You know what you're missing though? It's subjected to change according to the road conditions and the weather conditions. It could be pitch black, raining, but the GPS is still in contact with the satellites. And the GPS then tells me there's a car stalled on the right side. There's an accident ahead of, I can't see it, but it's still giving me information of what is ahead of me. It's saying, slow down, Nigel, because ahead of you is danger that you can't see yet. The storm is better for you to slow down and live than to maintain speed and die. Let me talk to my married and dating couples now. If you see a storm hit your relationship, your marriage, your courtship, whatever it is, if you cannot sit for us to talk about it, then it's clear that you're going to get up and walk away about it. Say it to you one more time. If you can't sit and talk about it, then one day you will stand and walk away because of it. You must never adopt the principle as a couple. I didn't say it's girlfriend and boyfriend, that kind of baby stuff. When you decide to be married and there's a storm in your marriage, forgetting it doesn't blow it away. You sit and you talk about it because it has to be important enough to know that my time in talking to you is my foot on the brake. Some people will rush through their relationship and the issues and end up being single because you didn't hear what I just said to you. You have to be prepared to sit and talk. Because after all, this is a whole life that's ahead of you. We have to be willing to hit the pause button, to put our foot on the brake and say, slow down here. There's a storm ahead. You want me to help you with this? Jesus is going up to Golgotha to be killed. The cross is on his back. Did he run up the hill? What did he do? He walked, stumbled, and he was going up the hill. Here's my question for you this afternoon. Why do you think you could run up to your crucifixion? As fast as you want the process of testing and dying to be over, it is only done when you struggle along the way. If you can be met with the inconvenience of a heavy cross and weak knees, you will rush, but you wouldn't die. If you cannot handle the pressure of a heavy cross and weak knees, you will be able to run, but you wouldn't die. And for as long as you're living, you're not crucified with him. Can you handle the burden of knowing? Let me bring you to Calvary. You could know because you have the intelligence, you have the information. That's what I mean by intelligence. You know it. You know that when I get up this hill, I will be dead. You know it. Some of you will say, do it quickly. No. Struggle up the hill. Stumble along the way. The process seems to be unending. But because of the fact that you know at the end of this journey I am going to be crucified, God said, take your time. Because every ounce of life in you will be out of you when you get up there. And if I get you up too quickly, you'll have the energy to fight. I came on this Sunday afternoon to tell somebody in this church that he's draining you of your energy. You'll not be able to fight God much longer. Because the GPS said there's a storm. And when there's a storm, you slow down. If you don't slow down, the storm will end. No storm lasts forever, but the wrecker will come to pull you off the road at some point. Somebody needs to be prepared for the storm that comes. When the storm comes, slow down. Crucifixion is a process. Crucifixion, T-I-O-N. Anything you see ending with the letters T-I-O-N, is a process. It's a process that takes time. You're driving down this road, the GPS said go on this highway. I'm on the highway. And when I look ahead of me, all I see would be red lights. A line of red lights. And Ishari calls it the garage. And I'm fussing. Now, come on. You mean this is the best you could do to me? Because this is late in the night now. You would put me on a highway with all of these cars before me? And I'm mad. Because I'm tired. Why give me all the traffic? And it says you're moving at 5 miles an hour. Watch what I figured out, though. When I look at the roads beside it, they were all red. They weren't moving at all. At least the GPS said, go on this one, you'll move slowly, but you'll still get to where you're going. What if I got upset and diverted? I would have been stuck in traffic. Slow doesn't mean you're not moving. I save the best bishop for this part right here, for last. God, I want to find a right word because some may think I sin if I say crazy. But I can't find a better word. God is the craziest GPS I know. You ready for it now, Pastor Jerry? He is the only GPS that directs you to a dead end. He said, follow the, go here, go here, go here. And when you meet in me, he directs you. Nothing is ahead of you but bush. And he said, this is exactly where I need you to be. What this? Then God says, now drive. Some of you, he drove you to the cliff. And you could see it. He said, now this is where I needed you to be. Now drive. Since you want to live by faith, I will create the road for you as you follow my instruction. That's the only GPS that directs you where there's no road. Because after all, his ways are not our ways. And when God puts you in the dead end, he says, now this is the option. You are not turning back. You will sit here and wait until the bush is clear, or you will drive and clear it. But you're not turning back on this journey. I don't care how inconveniencing it is. The tire may blow out. But you will keep going in the direction I said. Faith is when you go into a dead end and you see no road ahead of you. What do you do then? He's bringing some of you right there where I'm talking about today. When you would have been so smart to figure out everything in your life, then one day you discovered, I just don't know what to do next. He said, you're in a good place. Whenever you get to this position, you're in a perfect place. Whenever you see God drives you up the hill, and you say, but Father, there's a cliff. He said, I know. But there's a cliff. Yeah, I know there's a cliff. Keep driving. God, but there's a cliff. Watch what he tells you next. Take your foot off the brake. There's a cliff. But God, I will die. Exactly. Take your foot off the brake. Step on the gas. And he'll make you drive. And when the car goes over the cliff, he says, now live. Some of you were too safe for too long. Your Christianity was filled with, I know, I can, I have done, I have planned to do. Your whole life has been structured by you. God said from today, He will take you over the cliff. Because none of you in here would go over the cliff without saying, oh God. I don't care how evil you be. I don't mind how wicked you think you are. When the car goes over the cliff, you will say, oh God, or oh Jesus, or help me Lord. And that's exactly where He's taking you now. But it's uncomfortable. Yes, it is. To some of you, I'll say, join me. It is not easy when God puts you in a position whereby you have no clue about what's next. Nothing could be more uncomfortable for a person than not knowing what's next. You planned your journey, Pastor Woodley. You just knew that you would stop for gas here. You stop in 50 miles. You know that you're going to eat Chick-fil-A down the road. You know everything. And then suddenly, you are off a cliff. You don't stop for Chick-fil-A off the cliff. You don't want KFC off the cliff. You have no desire for food, Florine, off the cliff. Some of you think you just have to do stuff. Keep having to do. One of these days, you'll discover that the things you really wanted, you don't even want anymore, because when you start sailing over, and the higher the cliff, the less you could eat. Why would God call me bishop, a slave? Because we talked about it last week. Why would He give me that title? Why? When the ships were leaving West Africa, they said, traveling through the journey, those who bought them, who owned them, would look at one and say, come here. Come here to me. Grab him, push him over into the ocean. Push her overboard. But what options do I have? Do I have rights? No, you don't. The Bible said, not of all of us, some of us are slaves of God. When you're a slave, that's how He runs the car. One of the cars, He may pick you up and say, oh, you look nice, I could keep you in the garage today. The next one, He just kick you off the cliff. Whatever God does to you, if you're His, you'll be fine with it. I'm seeking today a church that's willing to follow GPS to nowhere. You don't need to know where you're going. You don't need to see the road ahead of you. You don't need to have any information about what is ahead of you. All you need is to believe in the instructions you're given. Genesis 12, He said to Abram, come, leave your country, leave your father's house, leave these people, and I'll show you a land. Now, you'll show me it. Where is it? I will show you. You keep walking. And Abram kept walking on a journey he didn't know he was going. Hebrews came, Paul wrote and said, he was looking for a city whose maker and builder was God. Where you find that? How could you spend your whole life, Abraham, looking for what you could never find? He died without seeing it. And what does the Bible call him, Melissa? The father of faith. And the deep church people in 2014 say they have plenty faith, but they know everything that happened ahead of them. Let the church stand. I was sent this Sunday to do just this, not to make you scream and holler, but to make you understand something significant. Your journey with God is not a road. It's not a course that you know. not a path with which you're familiar. Your journey with God is labeled. All of the signs along the highway is uncertainty, uncertainty, uncertainty. And when you get tired seeing uncertainty, Evangelist Pierre, and decide to turn off the road, it says inconvenience, discomfort. God never intends to take you on a trip of comfort. Why does this preacher preach this way to me every Sunday? Why does he never have a chance for me to shout and just act like everybody else? Because great people are not empowered by excitement. They're empowered by information, perspective, and empowerment. See yourself on the road now in reference to where you want to be. And are you prepared to go over the cliff? Can you take the trip over the cliff today and say, God, I die so I could live? The Apostle Paul said, I die daily. I'm not telling you what's not in the Bible. He said, I crucify myself every single day. I have to do this, Paul said, because if I don't do this, I could preach to you and I end up becoming a castaway that God doesn't want. How would you feel if you came to church every single Sunday, every Tuesday? You spent all these years in church. Some of you boast 25, 30 years. And on that day, Jesus said, I don't even know who you are. Because your life was filled with too many conveniences. Can you disappoint a friend because the GPS said don't go? Can you disappoint the family members who think you must do it this way and the GPS said don't do it that way? What price are you prepared to pay as you travel? Because church, this journey and this course has tolls on it. There's a toll booth, and every so often you have to pay. Jesus did it when he got to the toll booth. He had to lay his life down. When you get to your toll booth, what do you give up? If you throw less, Evangelist Pierre, into the machine, they will fine you more than you should have paid. You can't trick God. You know just what he's asking for in here. And some of you keep coming Sunday after Sunday and you're throwing less into the machine because you don't see anybody behind it. And you feel you could just slip away. But there's a price that you pay. The GPS has told you there's a toll on the road. Pay it. The GPS said there's a storm ahead of you. Slow down. The GPS said the conditions are terrible. Stop. Stop. The GPS said there's an accident ahead of you. If you keep going, you'll crash into somebody else. Stop. Follow, I say, the instructions of your GPS.